All right, welcome everyone. Today we want to go over one of the number one questions that we get a lot is how do we handle a fever when our child gets a fever? How high should we let it get? How should we treat it? That sort of thing. And so some of the information I'm going to share with you today might seem a little bit, just really different or out there to you, but I want you to really consider what I'm saying here because most of us overmanage a fever, and I'm going to tell you some of the reasons why we don't want to do that. So first and foremost, your body or your child's body has a fever for a reason. And the biggest thing when it comes to a fever, your body's heating up for a reason in order to fight something, whether it's a virus or bacteria. And so when we get a fever, it's actually a good thing, not a bad thing. Most of us are taught, we learn from, whether it's TV or media or doctors, that the minute the child shows any evidence of a fever, to try to lower it down with something like Tylenol or perhaps ibuprofen, something along those lines. We don't want to do that, and I'm going to tell you why. And there's a number of research studies out there that actually support this, but the more you medicate a fever, actually the longer it lasts. And I always use the analogy of cooking chicken or some kind of meat. The reason you cook it is to actually kill the virus or bacteria that could be present there. That's why we don't eat raw meat typically. So if you give your child Tylenol or ibuprofen, you're lowering the fever, allowing the virus or bacteria to stay there longer, actually fighting against what the body's trying to do. So here's the thing. A fever can be a completely healthy process that the body has all the way up until about 105 degrees. So a lot of people say, yeah, that's crazy. How could you let it get to 105 degrees? When the reality is most of the positive work a fever is doing for a child is actually somewhere between 102 and 104 degrees. Now, I'm not saying let a fever get up to 106 or 107 or something like that. If something does get that high, there's better options than Tylenol or Advil. But I want you to think about the fact that the body's doing what it's doing for a reason. So let's talk about what we can do if the fever gets too high or you're uncomfortable with it being at 104 or something like that. One of the best things you can do, believe it or not, is something called calcium lactate. And this product is from Standard Process. Again, this is one of the companies that we use most in our office, but this is a great tool to have on hand at home. It's a powder. It's not calcium from dairy, so don't worry about that. It's a non-dairy source of calcium that you mix in something like warm apple juice or warm water, and the child drinks it. And what you'll see is it actually will help the fever break, again, if it's getting really high. But don't worry about a fever, 100, 101, 102, 103. Those are completely healthy, normal temperatures for a child's body to work through a virus or a bacteria. All right, so again, this is one of those things, a lot of misunderstandings about. Worst case scenario, if a child has a high fever for a long period of time, you can cool them down with a cool bath, cool compresses, any of those things. You can use the calcium lactate as well, but certainly don't recommend using ibuprofen or Tylenol unless you get to a crisis. All right, so we really want to get to that point. As long as the child's eating or drinking or making sense, it's not an emergency. If it gets to an emergency where they're listless, they're not moving, not eating or drinking, then you have more of a problem that obviously you want to seek medical attention for. But riding a fever out is actually one of the best things you can do for a child's immune system. All right, so any other questions or tips, obviously go to our website, Revolution Health CTR, or our Facebook page, Revolution Health Center. You can get more information on either one of these things. It's been Dr. Devon Coughlin, Health Tip on Fevers.